Welcome back to Wargaming World, to Operation Torch, to North Africa 1942, and to another game of the solo Chain of Command. So, thanks for everybody who's followed the campaign so far. We played a bit of a test game first of all, and then we played the first game proper last time with the solo rules here, so you can see all the cards here on the table, and now is the second game with the Americans attacking. This time it's going to be against the Senegalese French colonial troops. Now, those who saw the first video will know I made a comment about the this type of troop, the Senegalese. I'm not altogether too sure whether they were engaged in Operation Torch. Couldn't quite prove that. However, these are the troops that I have, and certainly I think it's popular when I put them out amongst other players, many of whom have the same troops. So let's have a look at them and see how they're represented with the cards. Now, one personal point is that I've been so impressed with what Jeff Bomb did with the rules. I got my own cards printed, so it's the Wargaming World cards that I'll be using, and we've got two sets. So we've got the Senegalese here, and we have a standard platoon, so that means effectively we have our machine gun here with one additional crew, and then 4 rifles in terms of that team, so that team is 6 men in total. You'll notice I also have the junior leader there, but each of the junior leaders has a submachine gun, and then we also have 4 rifles. They're represented by the diamond cards, and the activation is when we see potential enemy forces approaching. We draw one of these cards, one of these diamond cards, to see whether they will act or not. The idea being principally is that they'll only really fire if they've got a good target, and by doing so it could trigger other units to appear. Okay, so we then also mention that we have a VB team, so we've got 3 men and a junior leader, and they appear with the hearts. The hearts are really the support cards. I'll just mention the other heart cards as well. We've got a 60mm mortar there, and on the other side we've got a medium machine gun as well. And so you'll now also notice that we've got a 75mm gun, and this has both a jack of hearts and the 3, 5 and 7 of clubs. So what that means is that the clubs are to be firing at vehicles only. It will fire at infantry, which is what the jack card indicates, but it's principally there to fire at American tanks or vehicles, as is the R35. So that's why we've got the 2, 4, 6 and 8 on that side. Only other units we've got as well, we've got a Queen of Hearts, where I bring in a medic, and a king and an ace, where I'll bring in a senior leader. And the only way the senior leader effectively works in this game is that it reduces shock. So these are our French forces. Now, I'm not going to cover all of the card activations because that's been in the previous videos. However, I'll just mention that there's 1 or 2 additional elements here. Firstly, it's to say that in terms of the ace, king, queen and jack of diamonds, and indeed of the clubs, when they are drawn, it means that there is no activity, nothing takes place, no troops appear. And I've got 1 additional card that I've just chucked in, which is a joker. If I draw the joker, then for this game what we're going to say is that of the new Shermans which have appeared in Operation Torch, we'll say that the Sherman, and it's only the Sherman, will break down. Its engine will break down if we draw the joker, and that's only obviously if there is a Sherman on the tabletop. Right, let's take a look at the American forces. So as before, they're going to have the same platoon each time, unless we want to use the previous one, The benefit of that is that they would have slightly more command. You'll see it when the game starts, but those who've seen the game beforehand, I know what I'm talking about, because we use a red dice. But anyway, standard platoon, 2 senior leaders at the front there. We don't get a bazooka because they weren't used in Operation Torch, so I'll just have the 2 seniors there. And we have 8 rifles, 8 Grant rifles, and then we've got our bar team with 1 crew and 1 rifleman, and then we have the junior leader with it with a submachine gun. And I'm being consistent by having each of these platoons, each new platoon, turning up with a 30 cal, a 50 cal, each of them it's 5 crew in total, and also we've got a medium mortar there, again with 5 crew in total. Now here's the variant, is that the Americans, I'm doing it the same way as I do with the French, is that they're going to have these support units as well, but if we lose them, and then they're lost rather for the campaign. So whether I bring them on the table or not, we'll have to wait and see. But we've got 1 half track, and we've also got an additional section there, same as before, 8 rifles, bar team, and a junior leader. And then we have a Grant tank, and we also have one of the new Shermans that appeared. You'll have mentioned, or I mentioned earlier on, about the Joker, where in this game if I draw it and the Sherman's out, it will just become static. So for the remainder of the campaign, we've got this, the half track, the Sherman, and the Grant. Let's take a look at the table. This is the American end here, advancing from 3 jump-off points. The vehicles will come on from the road at the back behind the building, and they're advancing across this area. You can see there's already been some fire. A couple of trees have been knocked over in that orchard over there. The first thing you can see is the church, and the church is a minor objective, so this is where the French forces may be. And as we come across here, you'll now look at what are the 2 major buildings. So in front here is a major objective, as is the one behind it. And then finally, as we go across this wadi, we've then got at the back areas of grass, but high grass I should say, but at the back there we've got another building. That is the second minor objective. So this is the second table here, and my expectation is that it's going to be a very hard fought game. Now remember, if you've watched the previous videos, there's no guarantee that all of the French troops will appear, and also the ones that they lose, they will be lost for the whole campaign. The Americans, on the other hand, we have our platoons which appear. When they're new platoons, they only get 4 green dice and 1 red dice in terms of command, with it being a new campaign for them in Operation Torch, but they can replace the platoons each time. And the objective of the campaign is to take all 3 tables in 5 games. So this is the second game, so let's get underway. Let's start with the American morale. Let's remember that the French don't have morale. It's about taking the objectives. Not great for the Americans. It's 8. Right, as we're about to start, we need to remember what the different cards are. So this larger pile, okay, so we start this. This is an activation card for, we take this at the start of the French phase. And on the left-hand side, we have the reaction cards. The smaller one, which is the reaction. On the left-hand side is the red one, which is the support and the infantry, and on the right it's the clubs, to see whether we get any anti-tank. And the last is this Joker. So the Joker I'm going to add to the main pack and see if this comes out at all during the game. So we'll start with the seed card. Should we get the top one? Okay. So 9 of spades to start off with. So we'll see what happens when we need to use that again when we move to the French phase. But let's see how the Americans go. 4 green dice, 1 red dice. So the red is a waste. We have 1 for the chain of command dice, and then we have 1, a 2 and a 4. With a 1 I've brought on the mortar team. 2 brought on a unit here, and with a 4 with them is the senior leader. With none of the Americans visible to the potential French, not even for the minor objective there because of the orchard. They have to get closer before they can. It means that we're just going to move to the next phase, and we start with the French. Okay, I've drawn the next activation card, and it's a king. Now if the card is a picture, then we ask ourselves the question, what would Sid do? What we'd do in that situation? So if we flip over, then what the rules are telling us is essentially, because we don't have every piece of intelligence, we want to make a judgment call ourselves about what is logical in terms about how we would move in this situation. And my conclusion is to do nothing, and so we'll pass over to the Americans. Okay, waste again of the red. We've got a 1, 2, a 3 and a 4. Just so I can explain for those who don't know, the red dice, unlike normally in the red dice you'd use the 1 to 4, we're using the rule the other way around. So it only counts if it's a 5 and a 6, otherwise we ignore this red dice. That's why, as I mentioned at the start, if you use the same platoon on the subsequent game, you can then have 5 green dice, now they've got some experience. With a 4, I'm going to have the senior leader get this unit move up through the orchard towards the first objective, this church here. With a 2, I'm going to bring on another unit in exactly the same place as that one, over here on the other side. With a 1, brought in a 50 caliber machine gun. 3, we have this half track and a unit inside it, and they're starting to advance along the road. Movement 7 inches. Now, in terms of this unit that's now advanced here, it needs to be within 8 inches to be spotted from somebody along the wall here. It isn't, so we're not even going to try and see if we can spot them. However, the unit out here could be seen, and it could be seen at effective range from a unit which is in this building. So what we have to do is have a look and see whether the unit would indeed want to appear and fire in this direction. So let's see what we draw. Drawn a 9 of diamonds. Now a 9 means that unit will only activate if the target would be in the open, and it most certainly isn't. There are some factors which would change that. If it was in close range, etc., it isn't. So again, nothing happens. Over to the French, and on the activation cards I've drawn a 10 of hearts. If the cards are number, we would test here to see whether we have any withdrawals. We don't have any men on the table, so obviously that isn't happening, and we don't need to go through the units which have already deployed again because we've nothing on the table. So back to the Americans. So we've got a double phase and 2 2s. Senior leader orders both units to move, but both to move tactically. So we'll roll for the front one first. Just 1 inch. Unit behind it, 3 inches. Again, the unit isn't close enough to reach the church, but we do need to draw again for the potential units appearing in this building. This time I've drawn a 4 of diamonds. And a 4 means the unit is only activated if the target is in soft cover. It isn't, so we pass again to the next phase for the Americans, as it's a double phase. Okay, 1 and 3 2s. With a 2, I'm going to move this front unit forward, moving tactically again. Just 1 dice. 2 inches. Okay, so I'm going to move the half track. It's a fast vehicle, so it gets, I've got 3 dice, plus also we get 2 inches per dice, so it's this plus 6. Right, okay, so that looks like 21 inches in total. Right, we've got a whole host of potential activity now. The Americans are now within 8 inches of the wall of this church, so they might be seen from the minor objective. Let's have a look at that. We've got this vehicle moving up off the road. It can be seen a little less about from the church, but what it can be seen from all the way back here is from this building. We've also got the original unit all the way back up here on top of that building there. To see that might be seen as well. So what we need to have a look at is to see whether potentially we see this vehicle, and that'll be for the first time the use of the clubs. So let's draw one of the clubs. It's a queen of clubs, so nothing appears. Now we might have perhaps an anti-tank gun behind this corner of the of this wall, so let's have a look from there. Well, by drawing the 4 of clubs out, we need to draw the next card to see if a second anti-tank element appears. This time it's just the king, so therefore nothing appears, and we just stick to the tank. So with the 4 of clubs we get the R35. We have the king of clubs, remember, but nothing appeared there, so it's just that single anti-tank element. R35 fires, and that looks like a hit. So it fires. We've got AP of 3 from the tank, and armour of 3 with the half track. But that's +2 for the French. Let's see what the consequence is for the half track. 2 net hits, 1d6, which is a 6. The impact is 3 shock, 2d6 reverse, and also 1d6 of hits of the unit in the vehicle. 1d6 hits, 5 hits, so 5 hits. We'll say in soft cover, and we'll say we've got 2 teams, so we'll say the blue dice is the bar team. And that looks like 3 points of shock and 2 killed in the rifles. Is it the leader? No, it's not. So 2d6 back. It's 8 inches. And so that's where the half track goes. I've got a few markers there in terms of shock. See whether we have any reaction and see whether we've got infantry waiting for the Americans here. 5 of diamonds. So a 5 would require the units to be in soft cover. Now, because the Americans are moving tactically, so they continue that way, in actual fact they're in hard cover. So as a result we would normally say no, where it says the 4 to 6. However, the target are now in close range, and because they're within 8 inches, the French could potentially see them. So it means that we move up 1 table, and as a consequence, in the where it says ace to 3, the unit is now activated and opens fire regardless of cover. And as a result, we have one of the French sections here waiting behind the stone wall and are ready to open fire. Just before I do, I need to draw another card to see if it's prompted another unit. With an 8 of diamonds it hasn't, because even though we would need to move this 1 up on the table, it would only go between the 4 and the 6. That means they would only fire on a unit in soft cover, whereas the Americans are in hard cover, moving tactically. So lots of dice here. We're going to start off with the submachine gun, which is effective range, which is 2 dice and 2 hits. We then have close range with the machine gun, 6 dice, needing 4s. That looks like 3 more hits. And we've got 8 rifles needing 4s. And that looks like 2 hits. The Americans are in hard cover, and so we're going to have the blue dice will be the bar team. And that means we've got 1 kill and 1 shock in the rifle team, and we've got 1 kill in the bar team. Is it the leader? No, it's not. So it's the start of the French phase, a new activation card, which is the 5 of Hearts. 5 of Hearts means that we repeat the process. And let's start off with the R35. So I also repeat the process firing with the infantry. Just a note here is that you realise that the R35 and the infantry have fired in the American phase, so it's effectively as if the tank and the infantry have been on Overwatch. That's how the process works. When we move to the Americans in the next phase, the French won't be firing again. Fires at the retreating half track, but that's a miss. Submachine gun needing 5s and 1 hit. Machine gun needing 4s. Yeah, looks like that's 3 hits again. 8 rifles again needing 4s. That looks like we have another 3 hits. Americans in hardcover. Blue is the bar team, and we've got 1 point of shock and 1 kill amongst the rifles. Is it the leader? No, it isn't. American phase. And so we do have a double phase, so that's good for the Americans. We do use, remember, the red dice. We only use the 5s and the 6s, so it does count. So a double phase, and then a 1, a 2 and a 4. Right, with a 4, the senior leader is going to order, he's going to take a point of shock off. He's going to order the unit at the front there to fire. Sorry, I can't really see with the trees. I might remove them for a second. Just taking a couple of trees off to see where we are. The unit in the front there, senior leader, is going to take off a point of shock, get the unit to fire, and then order the unit behind to move up. With the 2, I'm going to get the section to dismount out of this half track, and with a 1, I'm going to get this 50 cal to fire at the French over here on this behind this hard cover. 10 dice needing 5s with the 50 cal. And you need to re-roll 1, so I've got 2 1s there, but as I'm looking at it, I can see 3 hits. That's another hit. Blue is the machine gun team, behind hard cover, but that's what have we got there behind hard cover. We have 1 killed. Is it the junior leader? No, it's not. Now I'm going to start with the submachine gun of the leader. I'm assuming I can fire with it because the whole unit is firing in the same way that the leader moves with the unit moving. So apologies if I've made an error. 2 dice needing 5s. Nothing. Bar team. That's 1 hit. Actually, it's 2 hits, and I can re-roll the 1. That's another hit. I've got another junior leader with a submachine gun. That's not a hit with either of those. 5 rifles needing 4s. And that's 3 hits. 6 hits in total. And we've got 1 kill in the machine gun group, and we also have 1 point of shock. Is it the leader? Yes, it is. What happens to him? Now, he loses a command. It's a light wound. Move the unit at the back of the orchard. Move 9 inches. Just move the other tree just to show where I'm advancing. Finally, this unit dismounts. So we have 6 rifles at the front, junior leader and a bar team. The rifles have got some shock as well. However, by dismounting here, it might also prompt potentially for the French to see them from this main building here. So we're going to have to have a look and see if one of the cards come out. So let's see if any French appear. And with a 6, a unit is activated if the enemy are in the open or soft cover, which they are. They've dismounted and the French can appear. Before I do so, we're going to see whether there are more than 1 unit that appears. No, we've got a 2 of diamonds, but if we remember that the 2 of diamonds was in the pack, we had the 5 of diamonds, so they are now by the church. We didn't get a second unit coming out, but we've just got this first one, but it's still a full first section firing at the Americans who've just got out of that half track. So this time we've got the machine gun, 6 dice, needing 5s, and that's 3 hits. 8 rifles, also needing 5s. That looks quite a lot of them. We've got 3, so we've got 6 in total. Americans are in the open. Blue dice is the bar team. So we've got 2 killed in the bar team and 1 in the rifles. Is it the junior leader? No, it's not. Second American phase. Right, okay, so we actually have an end of turn. It's going to be another phase for the Americans. We've also got just a 1. I'm tempted to use the mortar to be more effective, but I'm going to try with the 50 cal again. Same target, French by this church, needing 5s. Looks like 4 hits and 2 1s to re-roll. It's still just 4 hits in total. Blue is the machine gun team. Another kill. Is it the leader? No. End of turn doesn't prompt anything. A bit more effective for the Americans. We have a 5 for the chain of command dice, so that takes it up to 2 and 2 3s. Okay, with 2 3s, I'm going to move 2d6, firing marching fire. In total, I think I have 14 Grant rifles, so therefore I can use 7 dice. I'll roll both units 2d6. If they're within 4 inches, we'll get into hand-to-hand combat. So that's what we're going to look at here. So I'm going to start with 7 Grants, needing 4s to hit. No 1s there to re-roll. There's a couple of hits though. Blue machine gun team. 1 kill, which is in the rifle. Is it the leader? No, it's not. The nearest unit, the one with the senior leader, moves 8 inches in total, -1 for the 1 point of shock. Second unit, which is a full unit, that moves 5 inches in total. It's going to be near enough for combat though. Okay, I've now moved all the figures away from the church and the orchard, so that I can show you exactly how the hand-to-hand fighting takes place, and to give you a calculation of who has what dice and why. We'll start with the Americans, but I'll just denote at the start there's only 1 point of shock for each side, so therefore that's not making any impact. So let's start here. Okay, so we've got a senior leader, that's 3 dice. He's got a submachine gun, that's 2 dice. I've got a junior leader, so it's 2 for his command, and I've got 2 dice. In front of him, there's 2 men from that bar team, and 5 men from the remainder of that unit. If we go across again, we've then got a junior leader with 2 dice, 2 dice for a submachine gun, 3 for the bar team, 8 for those men. And what we don't get is that although we've got a bar, it's not an assault rifle, so that's the total with our Americans. That's 31 dice in total. And for the French, we have our junior leader. He's wounded, so he's only got 1 command, but he does have a submachine gun. Got 1 man there with a light machine gun. It's 1 dice. We have 6 dice for those men there. We then have a calculation. First is 2d6, because the Americans moved 2d6. I'm not having it as 4, despite it was 2 units moving. It's just essentially the distance that they were taking, so that's 2 dice. And then they're also aggressive fighters, so you get a dice for every 3 men, and so we get an additional 2. 4 dice for the fact that the man at the back there has a light machine gun. So that's 18 in total. However, they're also defending hard cover, so they get a further 1 dice for every 2, so it's an additional 9 dice. A total of 27 for the French, 31 for the Americans. So we do fight, so 5s and 6s to kill, 6 is an additional point of shock. Start with the French. That's 7 casualties, 6 additional points of shock. We'll calculate that in a moment. So the Americans. One that jumped out. It's a 1. And that is an American victory, 10-7. So we can just calculate that we know if we've got 10 casualties here, we know that at least 1 wound is with the leader. And what happens to him? It's another wound. He'd already received 1, so therefore he's killed with the second. Now we know with the Americans that, again, a senior leader has been hit because we've taken more than 6, so let's see which one. 1, 2, 3, it's the unit that's with him. No, it isn't. So this is the officer who's wounded. Let's see what happens. He takes a light wound. 1 more casualty. Is it a leader? No, it's not. So I'm going to distribute the remaining 6 this way. 1 from each of the bar teams and 2 from the 2 from each of the units. And remember, we had 1 6, didn't we? So we need to have 1 additional point of shock. I'll roll. Ooh, who takes the shock? So having 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to be this unit here. That thing, junior leader wounded. 1. I don't think that's anything. And so the output is that the Americans have now taken this minor objective and the French have lost a whole section. Now, this phase isn't entirely over. So remember that when this unit appeared, we took another test. It was prompted to do so because that unit had appeared, and so we saw whether we would see another one, and we didn't. However, what's happened over here, obviously, is a lot of action, and if there is another unit in here, then I think it would be prompted to perhaps react. So we'll have to see by drawing another card whether there's a reaction to this. This is what we've got at the moment, and so a King of Diamonds is nothing, and we just turn to the next activation card. And the next activation card is a 5 of Hearts, and that means that the French will just repeat what they were doing from a previous phase. And so we would start with the R35 firing at the half track, and then we have this unit firing once again at the American unit who've got out of the half track. Okay, so the R35 firing. And that's definitely a hit. So it's hit the half track. So the half track is going to be the green dice. 5s and 6s. We've got 3 each. See what happens there. And it's +1 to the R35. So net 1 on the half track. And 1. What's the consequence? Right. So that's 1 shock is the consequence, which means we've got 4 shock on the half track. So the driver and the gunner will bail out, and it's going to be a bad thing with the support being lost. So support unit routes. 3 is a -1, so the American morale goes down to 7. And this unit will fire once again, firing at the unit which had bailed out of the half track. So firing again at this unit, and they're in the open. 5s to hit, and that looks like we've got 3 hits. Also got 8 rifles needing 5s. Looks like we've got a further 4. So I've got 4 on the rifles, 3 on the bar team. They're in the open. And so we lose 1 in the bar team, and we lose 1 in the rifles. There's also a couple of points of shock. 2 killed. Is it the leader? No, it's not. So the unit's up to 4 in shock, and we lose the bar team. So team lost. We need to roll for that. Team lost. Bad thing. 4, I think, is another -1. Yep, that's another -1. So the American morale is down to 6. Right, so it's the American phase, and nothing with the red dice. We've got 2 4s and 2 3s. Right, I think this could certainly be a turning point in the game. So with a 3, I've brought on the final section that's appeared, and it's going to fire. We've then got with a 4 I've brought on the senior leaders back there. You can see senior leader is going to take off a point of shock from that unit, and he's going to order the 50 cal and the mortar to fire. Going back there on the other side, we've got the junior leader who's going to take off a point of shock of the unit and then order 4 rifles to fire. We'll lose 1 because it'll still have a couple of points of shock. And with the other 4, the senior leader is going to take off the 2 points of shock off the 2 units and order the front unit to fire, which means I can fire with about 5 rifles. So let's start with those 5 rifles, and they're in close range, so they only need 4s. So that means they've only got 1 hit, although there's a 1, I'll re-roll. And with that, it's a hit. 3 rifles next to the abandoned half-track, needing 5s. Need to re-roll 1. Nothing. 50 cal, needing 5s. And that looks like just 1 hit. Re-roll the 2 1s. And 1's a hit. 8 grunt rifles. Again, needing 5s. And that looks like it's just 2 hits. Bar team, plus 1 rifle. 1 hit. Mortar needing 4 5s and 6s. 2 hits. We'll start with the mortar. Blue dice is the machine gun team, amongst the French, 1 being killed. And then we have 7 hits. Blue being the machine gun team again. And that just means we've got 2 points of shock. Was it the leader? No, it wasn't. Now, with all of that firing, we need to see whether it's prompted another French section to appear. So I have to draw the card. So let's have a look. See what might arrive. It's the Queen of Hearts. So the Queen of Hearts is in fact the medic. So there isn't a specific rule in terms of seniors and medics in the solo game. So the way I'm using it is that they will give an additional 1 to shock, and therefore it's appropriate to be here in this location. Because I drew a card successfully, we need to draw another and see whether other units have appeared. This time it's the 5 of Hearts. And yes, because we've got the 5 of Hearts, remember it's the VB team. So we've got 3 VB men and a junior leader, and it does activate because we do have a target which is in the open. So we're going to fire now. I do need to draw another card, but we'll start by firing with this, remembering that it has half effect from the first fire. So it's 3 dice firing at the unit next to the half track. 4 5s and 6 to hit. That's 1 hit. They are in the open, and so it's an additional point of shock. So does the chain reaction continue? What have we got next here in terms of the card? And this one, it's the 8 of Hearts. Now the 8 of Hearts was the VB team, which has already come out, so that's the end of that sequence. Now, in fairness, with all of that firepower, I was expecting that the Americans would dislodge the French on this building, but that's obviously not happened. So we're going to go over to the next turn, which is the French, and we'll see whether they can continue to whittle down the American morale. To draw the activation card, we'll get 2 cards, and we have 10 of diamonds. So that means there's no negative impact when we have a numbered card, just as long as it's not the same number as the previous one. It just means the units will continue operating in the same way they have done previously. That means the R35, it can't fire at the half-track because the half-track is now disabled, but it can fire with its machine gun at the infantry. So it's a coax machine gun, 8 dice, needing 5s. And that looks like 2 hits, units in the open. And another point of shock. Next I'm going to activate this unit, and so because we have a medic, I'm going to automatically remove 1 point of shock, and the way the rules work is the effectiveness of the junior leader is that at the start of each phase he also reduces the shock, so we're going to remove the shock of 2 away from the unit. Light machine gun, needing 5s, And it looks like we've got 2 hits, 8 rifles. Again, needing 5s. That's some poor shooting. So 2 means we've got 2 points of shock. And with that, the unit go up to 6 with morale. Sorry, 6 with shock, and so they're now pinned. And the VB launchers. So we've got all 6 dice, needing 4s, but only 2 hits. Even though they're pinned to the VB grenade launchers, it's effectively still in the open. And 2 more points of shock. So that unit is now at 8. Again, thought could have been a little bit better for the French in terms of dislodging that unit, but unfortunately they haven't, and we're back to the Americans. 2 5s to the chain of command dice. The 4 is a waste, so actually only leaves them with a 1 and a 2. Not much option here other than to continue firing with the 50 cal and this unit. I could actually fire the 50 cal at the R35, but it has armour of 5 and with an AP of 2. I think it might be a waste, so we'll carry on firing at the infantry. 5s required. Another pretty ordinary roll. 3, although remembering up 4 1s there, so I can re-roll those 4. And that's another hit. Bar team and the rifles, or the rifle I should say, that's 2 hits. And now that looks more effective. That's a further 4 hits, 10 hits in total. And that looks quite a lot of casualties. So we've lost 3 in the machine gun team, and 1 in the rifles, and a point of shock with each. Is it the junior leader? Yes, it is. What's happened to him? He's killed. Need to check which unit therefore didn't take that hit. For all 5 or 6 it was the rifles. No, it's the MG team. Alright, well this unit is getting very thin, and the reaction will be that because we've had more firing, we'll see again whether another unit appears, but I think we're getting very close to a French withdrawal if we want to keep some troops for the remaining battles. Let's see what might appear. And we've got an ace, which means there is a senior leader who can appear. So I'll bring the senior leader on, and then there's still another card. What else might we get? The 10 of hearts. Well, the 10 is a mortar, so I'm going to fire it. The senior leader is standing next to them, but we need 4 5s and 6s. 3 dice, 1 hit. Same American target. A 2 is nothing. Do we get anything else beyond that mortar? It's a king. So the king is the senior leader. So that's all that can come out in the French in response to the American firing. But it is still the French phase next. So we draw an activation card. 5. So it means that the French will continue to fire in the way they have previously. We've, as I said beforehand, when we have a numbers card, it'll only do something if it's the same number as another suit or a picture. Here we're just going to continue, although the firing from the French is beginning to diminish. So this will be the target for all units, so we'll see what happens. R35, needing 5s, and that's 3 hits. Now in soft cover because they're pinned, and that means we've got 1 point of shock. I'm going to fire with the VB team. It's their 3rd and final fire, needing 4s. That's 3 hits if the unit is in the open, and that's 2 points of shock. And with 11 shock, they will break. So we've got a support unit routing and a junior leader routing. Support unit routes. 2, I think, is a -1. Leader routing. 6, that's always bad, so it's certainly going to be -2. Yep, a -2, so the Americans are now down to 3 with morale. I'm going to say that the troops on the building, the French, can fire at this unit at the front. Machine gun, needing 5s. 3 hits, 4 other rifles in total needing 5s. nothing. I'm going to give these hard cover because I've done the same with the French, so I'm going to say the blue dice is the bar team, and therefore it's no effect. With a mortar at the same target. 2 hits. The outcome of that is that effectively as if it would be, they're in hard cover, goes down by 1 down to soft cover, so the rifles have 1 point of shock. American, morale of 3 down to 3 dice. 2 4s and a 5, so that's 1 for the chain of command dice, which is up to 5, and then the 2 senior leaders can be activated, which I think is quite significant. Right, with a 4, I'm going to fire with the main unit again at the French on the building. I'm going to have a go though with the 50 cal at the tank, and then the mortar is going to fire also. 50 cal. That's a 5. I think that's a miss. It's a bad decision. The R35 is small, so oh, that's a miss. I'm going to fire with the mortar. 4 5s and 6s. That's a hit. Just 1 with them being in. Well, they're in hard cover. It's going to be soft cover. I'm going to select that it's going to be the rifle team that gets hit, but 1 is killed. Our team and the rifles, or the rifle, I should say. 1 hit. 8 Grant rifles. Looks like 4 hits. Roll the 1. 5 hits. Blue being the machine gun team. 1 killed. The 4. The senior leader has ordered the initial unit, the one that's furthest to the back, to move over the stone wall. We will just roll 2d6 and deduct the lowest one, so it's only just going on the other side, so it gets a wider angle in order to fire. We're not going to fire in this phase though. However, the units in front can, and again I'll use just 5 dice. Leading 4s, and that's 3 hits in blue, 1 killed, no shock. Right, I could draw another card to see whether another French unit come in here, would be in the American phase, and making a response to it, but I'm not going to, because as we go to the French phase, I'm going to withdraw here. I know that the Americans are at 3, so perhaps we might whittle them down further, but I feel all that's happening is that we're just going to lose the second section. It's almost gone as is here, and I want to retain some forces for the next and what might be the final battle, but that includes the R35, so I'm going to stop and say that this is an American victory at this point. So what does that mean for the campaign? I'm going to actually say that I'm going to remove the Americans, that half-track and section, and say when we come back for the next game, we use, if I use the same platoon, which I could do, it'll have 5 green dice rather than the red dice. The actual sections itself of the original platoon haven't had very many casualties at all, other than the fighting there over by the church. What does it mean for the French? Well, we have 1 full section remaining, and then we've got this VB team here, and so I think what I'll do is the VB team and the remaining men can make up what I think will be a machine gun team, and then we have the original French forces from the last game, so they didn't take many casualties, so there's still essentially 3 or 4 sections remaining for the French. And indeed we've got the R35, and what didn't come out in this game was the 75mm. So there's still some good French forces, but as I say, this is an American victory, and let's see how the campaign goes in the 3rd battle. I just want to finish by saying thanks again to Jeff Bond for the help during the game, conversation, and indeed for the rules that he's put together, which is included in the 2020 Lardy's magazine, if you want to pick that up. And for anybody who wants to add any thoughts or ideas, I've got a couple of Facebook groups which run. One is the Chain of Command 1940 Facebook group. There's a lot of people in there. We're well over 700 members, and also I have the Wargaming World Facebook group, which is 200 and odd in numbers, and of course the YouTube channel itself, if you want to subscribe for that. Almost 1,600 members there too, so thanks to everybody in those groups who contributes, and look forward to seeing you next time with the rest of the campaign in Operation Torch.